Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal over the past few days. The online community and longtime viewers of General Hospital have been shaken by shocking reports linking actor Steve Burton, best known for his role as Jason Morgan, to a devastating cash fraud scheme that left an elderly woman homeless and stripped of her life savings. The scandal erupted after it was revealed that a fraudulent GoFund campaign had been orchestrated with alarming sophistication, using artificial intelligence to impersonate Burton's voice and likeness. For the victim, the illusion was so convincing that she believed she was in direct contact with the actor himself. As the news spread, it ignited a wave of outrage and sorrow, exposing the dangers of AI-driven scams that have been multiplying across social media platforms. The fraudulent campaign was titled "Help Vivian Save Her Mother's Home and Dignity" and was launched by Vivian Ruvalcaba, the daughter of 66-year-old Abigail, who had been left destitute after falling prey to the scheme. Abigail was not only a devoted viewer of General Hospital but also a tragically perfect target for such deception, an older woman coping with disability and mental health struggles, vulnerable to emotional manipulation. During a manic episode connected to bipolar disorder, Abigail was persuaded to sell her condominium for $350,000. Believing she was helping someone she admired and trusted, she handed over the entirety of the proceeds to the con artist posing as Steve Burton. By the time the truth came to light, the condo had already been resold by a real estate company for profit, and Abigail faced imminent eviction with nowhere else to go. With power of attorney over her mother's affairs, Vivian was forced to take immediate action. She launched the GoFund campaign not only as a desperate plea for financial support but also as a legal lifeline. Funds were urgently needed to retain an attorney, cover mounting court fees, and secure temporary housing while they challenged the fraudulent sale in court. Yet despite heartfelt appeals and some early support, donations amounted to only $1,550 from just over 30 contributors, a devastating shortfall compared to the $18,000 goal. Each passing day has increased the pressure as eviction deadlines loom, and the legal process becomes more demanding. Vivian has emphasized that this battle is not simply about money but about awareness, warning that if her family could fall victim, then no one is safe. What has horrified both supporters and observers alike is the sheer realism of the scam. AI-generated videos, messages, and phone calls replicated Steve Burton's tone, cadence, and expressions so flawlessly that even Burton himself admitted in an interview with KBC that the fake recordings sounded 100% like his own voice. This technological precision obliterated the line between truth and fabrication, leaving Abigail defenseless against manipulation. For many, the incident has become a wake-up call, a demonstration of how dangerously advanced AI scams have become, turning vulnerable individuals into easy prey while eroding trust in digital communication. Although Steve Burton has since issued a statement distancing himself from the fraud and clarifying that he played no part in the scheme, public anger has not been easily calmed. In the court of public opinion, denial has not sufficed. A growing faction of fans and critics has labeled him immoral, arguing that as the figure whose image and reputation were weaponized, he should bear responsibility for what happened, regardless of his personal innocence. Some demand that Burton take direct action, whether financial restitution, public campaigning for stronger protections, or legal countermeasures, claim that anything less amounts to abandoning accountability. This backlash has created an environment of extreme tension. On one side are those who sympathize with Burton as another victim of AI exploitation, caught in a nightmare not of his making. On the other side are voices of fury who see the suffering of Abigail and her family as justification for holding Burton responsible, believing that public figures cannot simply wash their hands when their identities are used in crimes. The clash has escalated across social media, with hashtags condemning him trending alongside those defending his integrity. The longer the controversy lingers, the greater the risk that Burton's reputation will be permanently scarred, overshadowing decades of work and dedication to his craft. The scandal has thus become more than a tragic tale of one elderly fan's exploitation. It has evolved into a heated debate about celebrity accountability in an age where AI technology blurs the boundaries between real and counterfeit. While legal authorities work to investigate the fraud itself, the cultural fallout is being waged in the court of public perception, with Steve Burton at the center of a storm that threatens both his career and his image. The story of Abigail and Vivian has exposed not only the vulnerabilities of individuals but also the precariousness of public trust when technology can so easily turn admiration into devastation. Under growing public pressure, GoFund was compelled to issue an official statement, confirming that they had thoroughly reviewed the fundraising campaign in question and verified that Vivian Ruvalcaba was indeed a legitimate organizer, not a fraudster. This clarification was intended to reassure donors and protect the credibility of the platform, yet it did little to quell the storm surrounding the incident. In the same breath, GoFund admitted that even with advanced monitoring and verification systems, the platform cannot fully prevent impersonation schemes that exploit the likeness of celebrities and public figures, especially now that artificial intelligence has reached a level of sophistication where fabricated voices and videos are indistinguishable from reality. This admission has sparked a larger debate about the responsibility of technology platforms in safeguarding users against increasingly bold and insidious forms of fraud. The controversy highlights an unsettling paradox. On one hand, platforms like GoFund are crucial lifelines for individuals in crisis, offering transparency and community-driven support. On the other hand, their very openness makes them fertile ground for bad actors who use emerging technologies to construct elaborate traps that prey on human trust. The case involving Abigail has become a flashpoint, prompting calls for stricter oversight, stronger identity verification measures, and perhaps even new regulations designed to combat AI-assisted fraud. Critics argue that by allowing such campaigns to exist unchecked until damage is already done, platforms inadvertently enable the victimization of vulnerable populations. Proponents of reform stress that the technology industry must evolve faster than the criminals who weaponize its innovations. Meanwhile, Steve Burton himself took to social media to address the growing scandal, expressing outrage at the exploitation of a vulnerable fan and extending heartfelt sympathy toward Abigail and her family. He emphasized unequivocally that he has never solicited cash donations, nor has he ever asked fans to contribute to any fundraising campaign in his name. His statement was an attempt to draw a clear line between his public persona and the fraudulent use of his image. Yet the reality of viral news cycles worked against him. By the time his clarification circulated, the initial headlines linking his name to a scam had already traveled far and wide, leaving an indelible stain in the minds of many who only skimmed the surface of the story. For some, Burton's denial provided relief, reinforcing the idea that he too was a victim of this malicious scheme. But for others, skepticism lingered. Doubts about whether a celebrity could truly be so detached from the misuse of their image festered, with critics suggesting that high-profile individuals bear some level of responsibility to monitor and protect their brand. This skepticism has chipped away at the trust between actor and audience, raising difficult questions. Can a performer's reputation survive repeated entanglement in scandals not of their own making? And how much damage is done simply by association, regardless of innocence? The answers are unclear, but what is undeniable is the erosion of confidence among a portion of his fan base, which could carry long-term consequences for his career. Beyond Burton's personal predicament, the scandal paints a grim picture of what lies ahead in a society where AI technology continues to blur the line between authenticity and fabrication. What happened to Abigail is not an isolated event. It is a harbinger of a broader crisis. Across the world, elderly individuals, particularly those grappling with illness, loneliness, or a lack of digital literacy, represent an expanding pool of targets for scammers who exploit emotional vulnerabilities. These con artists do more than strip victims of their money. They dismantle dignity, destabilize security, and corrode the fragile trust that holds communities together. In Abigail's case, the loss was both financial and existential. The roof over her head, the independence she had built, and the emotional connection she thought she shared with someone she admired were all destroyed in one calculated deception. The implications extend well beyond this single tragedy. If technology can so convincingly turn Steve Burton into an unwitting accomplice in fraud, it could just as easily transform any public or private individual into a tool for exploitation. In such a landscape, no one is truly safe. Families may see loved ones manipulated, reputations may be unjustly destroyed, and entire communities may lose faith in digital systems that once promised empowerment. The debate sparked by this case is not only about one fan's loss or one actor's reputation but about the future of human trust in the digital era, future now under siege by machines that can mimic, deceive, and devastate with chilling accuracy. At present, Vivian continues to press forward with her legal battle, while Abigail lives under the constant shadow of eviction, her sense of safety eroded each day that passes without resolution. The GoFund campaign, though genuine and rooted in desperation, struggles to meet its target, leaving the family's future precarious. Supporters hold on to the hope that the case will garner greater attention from General Hospital fans and the wider public. For only through visibility and collective compassion can the campaign gain enough momentum to provide real relief. Yet the tragedy is more than a singular misfortune. It has become a stark reminder of how fragile the line between reality and fabrication has become in the digital age, where even the most vigilant among us can find ourselves deceived. The controversy surrounding Steve Burton's unintended connection to the fraud has spiraled into far more than a story of personal loss. It has ignited wider debates about the legal ramifications and reputational fallout when a celebrity's likeness is weaponized without consent. For Burton, whose career spans decades and whose role as Jason Morgan has endeared him to millions, the incident has thrust him unwillingly into the eye of a storm. Though he played no part in the creation of the fraudulent GoFundMe, the association has placed his name on headlines alongside words like scam and fraud, with implications that could haunt his professional standing for years to come. From a strictly legal standpoint, Burton himself shows no indication of being directly sued. The fraudulent campaign was orchestrated by outside actors, leaving him as a victim of impersonation rather than a perpetrator. Nevertheless, the use of his voice and image in the scheme raises complicated questions about indirect accountability. Legal experts point out that while Burton may not be culpable in the traditional sense, he could still find himself entangled in legal proceedings as a witness. If Abigail and Vivian pursue civil claims against technology companies or fundraising platforms, Burton could be called to testify about the impact of impersonation, the authenticity of the fraudulent materials, and the ways in which his likeness was exploited. His presence in court would not only prolong his exposure to the scandal but also cement the association in the public's consciousness. Some legal commentators go further, suggesting that cases like this could pave the way for novel legal strategies. Victims might attempt to name celebrities as co-defendants, not necessarily because of proven wrongdoing but to lend weight to their suits and compel platforms to take accountability. This approach, though controversial, is not unprecedented. Platforms often include public figures or corporations in civil suits as a way of strengthening claims and pressuring for settlements. Even if such efforts fail, the mere fact of being listed in a lawsuit can drag a celebrity into months, even years, of reputational damage and financial strain from legal fees. For Burton, whose livelihood depends on his reputation, this possibility represents a serious threat. The reputational consequences are already apparent. Despite Burton's swift public statements distancing himself from the scam and condemning the exploitation of a vulnerable fan, skepticism lingers among segments of the audience. In the relentless environment of social media, clarification often arrives too late to undo the harm of initial headlines. Many fans continue to question whether he bears some responsibility for failing to protect his image from misuse, or whether celebrities in general should be expected to implement safeguards against impersonation. These doubts chip away at the trust that has long been the bedrock of his relationship with viewers, raising the possibility of diminished opportunities in an industry where reputation is currency. The broader implications are troubling. This case demonstrates that in the age of AI, any public figure can be unwillingly implicated in fraud. As technology advances, so too does the capacity for criminals to replicate faces, voices, and personalities with eerie precision. If Abigail's tragedy underscores the vulnerability of older individuals to emotional manipulation, Burton's ordeal highlights the fragility of celebrity reputations in a world where identity itself can be stolen and weaponized. Both sides of the story, Abigail's financial ruin and Burton's reputational peril, speak to the need for urgent legal and technological reforms. Without them, countless others risk facing similar devastation, whether as direct victims of scams or as unwilling accomplices whose images are hijacked to lend credibility to criminal enterprises. Steve Burton's reputation, once regarded as one of the most stable and enduring in the world of daytime television, is now facing significant erosion under the weight of this scandal. In the entertainment industry, public perception is often shaped by first impressions, and once a damaging association takes root, it becomes notoriously difficult to erase. The repeated pairing of his name with phrases such as cash fraud, lost home, and fake GoFundMe has already created a toxic connection that no public statement can easily undo. Even though Burton has publicly denounced the scam and expressed sympathy for the victim, the damage of initial headlines lingers, as countless people only absorb the surface-level narrative without engaging with the clarifications that followed. Longtime fans, who once celebrated him as a dependable and trustworthy figure, have become divided. Some remain steadfast in their loyalty, acknowledging him as another victim of technological exploitation. But a growing number harbor doubts, questioning whether he was in some way complicit or, at the very least, too slow to distance himself from the fraudulent campaign. In the rapid and forgiving cycle of social media, every hour of silence becomes an opportunity for speculation to flourish. This dynamic has transformed Burton from a clear victim of impersonation into what many see as a suspect of reputation, caught between his innocence and the public's appetite for blame. The greater concern lies in the long-term repercussions for his career. Burton has long been recognized as a cornerstone of General Hospital, where his portrayal of Jason Morgan cemented his status as a fan favorite, and he has extended his career through appearances in other productions and projects. Yet scandals of this magnitude can alter the trajectory of even the most established careers. Producers, casting directors, and network executives often operate with caution, prioritizing the protection of their brand over the loyalty they may feel toward a single actor. Any whiff of controversy, even one rooted in falsehood, can be enough to make decision-makers hesitate. This hesitation can manifest in several ways. Production companies may quietly avoid offering Burton leading roles in upcoming series, fearing the distraction of negative press. Networks may decline to renew contracts or extend appearances, wary of aligning their brand with a name that has been sullied in headlines. Endorsement opportunities, which rely heavily on the credibility and relatability of a celebrity, may evaporate entirely, as companies shy away from risking association with a figure whose reputation is under scrutiny. Even event organizers, from fan conventions to network panels, could choose to scale back his involvement, calculating that the presence of a polarizing figure might generate more controversy than positive publicity. The most troubling aspect is that such professional consequences do not depend on guilt or innocence. In the entertainment industry, perception is reality. Even if Burton's name is legally cleared of all connection to wrongdoing, the suspicion alone can cast a shadow over his career for years. History has shown that reputational stains often outlive the controversies that caused them, leaving public figures with the daunting task of rebuilding trust piece by piece. For Burton, this means that every contract negotiation, every casting discussion, and every public appearance will now carry an unspoken question: does his presence invite loyalty? Or does it invite risk? The divide within Steve Burton's fan community is not a fleeting ripple but a deepening rift that illustrates the precariousness of celebrity identity in the digital era. For decades, Burton's reputation rested on consistency, reliability, and an image of moral clarity, both on and off screen. His role as Jason Morgan in General Hospital embodied loyalty, resilience, and steadfastness, traits that fans eagerly associated with the actor himself. This alignment of character and real-life persona created a foundation of trust that allowed Burton to build one of the most enduring careers in daytime television. Yet the scandal, however unearned, threatens to dismantle that foundation piece by piece. The loyalist faction of his fan base continues to view him as a victim of technological exploitation. They see the scam as proof not of Burton's failings, but of the dangers of an increasingly predatory digital environment. For them, the outrage belongs squarely to the criminals who orchestrated the fraud and to the platforms that failed to intercept it in time. These fans champion Burton not just by defending his innocence but by turning the scandal into a broader rallying cry for reform. Their posts and comments call for stronger legal protections against AI impersonation, new safeguards for celebrities' images, and more transparent measures from platforms like GoFundMe to verify the legitimacy of campaigns. In their view, Burton's ordeal is an opportunity to spotlight systemic failures rather than personal flaws, and they cling to the hope that he can emerge not diminished but elevated, as a voice advocating for change. Yet skepticism festers elsewhere. A second, more critical faction sees the scandal as a wake-up call against blind celebrity devotion. To these individuals, the line between admiration and manipulation has been blurred beyond recognition. They argue that if someone as seemingly trustworthy as Steve Burton can be caught in the orbit of a fraud, then no actor, no matter how beloved, can be shielded from suspicion. Even though Burton's role in the scheme was non-existent, the fact that his name has been repeatedly linked to headlines about scams, money, and eviction casts an unavoidable shadow. The more cautious fans among this group no longer trust the seamless alignment of actor and character, suspecting that the image of integrity projected on screen may not fully exist off it. While they may not abandon him entirely, their faith has been fractured, and fractured faith is nearly impossible to restore to its former strength. This erosion of trust bleeds into Burton's professional life, and the entertainment industry is notoriously sensitive to public perception. Even whispers of scandal can derail casting conversations or sponsorship opportunities. Producers and executives often weigh not just an actor's talent but also the baggage they bring, and in a media landscape dominated by viral narratives, baggage is measured less by facts than by headlines. Burton may find himself passed over for roles or excluded from press tours simply because decision-makers fear that his presence would invite unwanted scrutiny. Networks may hesitate to invest in storylines centered around his character, wary of tying too much of their brand to someone mired in controversy. The reputational toll, then, is not just abstract, it can translate into tangible losses in visibility, influence, and income. Faced with these mounting challenges, legal action looms as both a weapon and a risk. Suing the perpetrators who impersonated him would allow Burton to reclaim agency over his name and assert his position as a victim rather than a bystander. Extending legal action toward platforms that failed to prevent the fraud could highlight systemic negligence and push for reforms. However, such actions are rarely straightforward. Legal processes are slow, draining, and often attract as much negative attention as they resolve. Every court appearance, every headline about a pending case, and every leaked document would tie Burton's name more tightly to the scandal, prolonging the association he most wants to escape. Even victory in court would not erase the memory of the scandal, it would only confirm that his name had been central to a legal battle. The cruel paradox is that in defending his reputation, Burton risks entrenching the very associations he wants to dismantle. Yet inaction is equally perilous. Remaining silent, or offering only minimal responses, would be perceived by many as tacit acknowledgement of guilt or, at best, indifference to the suffering of Abigail and her family. In the unforgiving climate of public opinion, neutrality does not exist. Every move or lack thereof will be scrutinized, analyzed, and interpreted, often in ways beyond his control. This leaves Burton with only one viable strategy: full transparency, proactive engagement, and decisive legal maneuvers aimed not only at clearing his name but at reshaping the narrative. The larger lesson of this scandal is a sobering one. Fame, once thought to provide insulation through wealth, influence, and adoration, has become a vulnerability in itself. In the age of AI and instant virality, a celebrity's likeness is no longer fully their own. It can be stolen, replicated, and weaponized to devastating effect. For Steve Burton, this reality has transformed him overnight from a symbol of trustworthiness into a contested figure whose very identity is under siege. He did not ask to become the face of a cautionary tale, but circumstance has made him one. Ultimately, what hangs in the balance is more than just his personal reputation. It is the integrity of the relationship between celebrities and their audiences, a relationship already strained by decades of scandals, media distortions, and unmet expectations. If Burton cannot reclaim the narrative, the image of Jason Morgan's loyal and wavering protector may forever be eclipsed by the shadow of fraud and deception. The scandal then becomes not just a personal crisis but a cultural marker, an example of how easily admiration can turn to suspicion, and how quickly trust can disintegrate in the digital age.